Hey guys, welcome back to another What's for Dinner. Tonight I'm keeping it really simple. Let's get into tonight's dinner. So on this night we decided to have some baked ziti, so I am just browning up 1 pound of ground beef, and then while that is cooking I'm going to grate up some mozzarella. And if you've never made this before, I would just look up a recipe for ratios. I feel like you can kind of really play with it. It's pretty flexible. But I did, I think, about a whole block, close to a whole block of mozzarella. I think there was a little bit of it already missing. And then I used almost a whole jar of spaghetti sauce. There was a little bit, there's maybe a half a cup already missing. And then this was like a little bit less than a pound of pasta. I was really just kind of finishing up some stuff that was already open. So I browned my ground beef and drained the fat, and then I just put in some minced garlic, however much you want, stir that around for just a second, and then we're gonna add in the sauce. I probably could have done less meat for the size baked ziti I did, but again, there's really no wrong way to do this. So, and then I did put a little bit of water in the bottom of the jar, not a ton, but just a tiny bit, and shook it around just to get the rest of the sauce out. It's easier to do that than scraping it out. So that's what I'm doing here. It didn't really make it runny because it wasn't that much water. You really don't need much. And I just kind of let that all heat together and simmer through, and then I added in some seasoning just to spice it up a little bit. Not spice, you know, not the spicy kind of spice. Anyways, I did some basil, oregano. I did a little bit of rosemary and some parsley. You could also just do an Italian seasoning, whatever you want there. And drained the pasta once that was done, and see, it's very hot, steaming up the camera. And then we're going to add in ricotta cheese. This is something else that, it was almost a whole container. We had pulled a little bit out. I don't even know what for. I think my husband did for something he was doing. The reason I was making this for dinner was because I had a bunch of things that were open and just a little bit of stuff was taken out of, and I needed to use them before it went bad. Then I like to add feta cheese when I have it, so I'm just crumbling up some feta cheese. You don't have to do that, but we love feta cheese. And I also had some well, I was gonna say some Parmesan cheese, but I guess I just added that on later. I'm gonna mix it all together. I'm putting just a tiny bit of sauce on the bottom of a greased pan, and then a little bit of the sauce in with the noodles. I don't know what the quote-unquote proper way to do a baked ziti is, but this is how I do it. I don't think it matters if you put the sauce on the top and the bottom, all in between. It really doesn't make a difference because it's all gonna get in there. And then I'm just adding the sauce on, the rest of the sauce on top of the pasta. And sorry about that, I realized I was kind of out of the shot, but that's what happens when I'm cooking. Sometimes I get busy cooking and forget about the camera. I just put a little bit of Parmesan on top, and then the shredded mozzarella. Pop that in the oven at 350 for about 30 to 45 minutes until it's heated through and it's nice and bubbly. And then for a side, I decided to do a zucchini. I had contemplated putting the zucchini just in the baked ziti, but my husband was worried that the texture wouldn't quite be right to go with it, and it would bother him because he doesn't like textures. And honestly, I wasn't sure if it would work anyway, so I said, well, I'll just make it on the side. So all I did was diced up the zucchini, melted some butter, and then we just sauteed that until it got nice and tender. Oh, I also added in some garlic because, you know, always add in some garlic. I don't realize there was a couple pieces that were too big. Just cut it up, put the lid on. I think I lowered the temperature just a little bit here. And you can see a couple pieces got a little bit darkened on the bottom. That stuff doesn't bother me, but I think it happened because I had gotten distracted doing dishes. And I made a mess of myself that night. See, I put the apron on. I should have done that from the very beginning. Anyways, this is how it came out. I put a little bit of Parmesan on the zucchini as well. I put mine together, so I had it kind of on the side right there. I think Jesse put his on separate dishes all together. But this was really good and super easy to throw together, and it helped me use up some stuff in the refrigerator that needed to be used. All right, guys, so for tonight's dinner, I only kind of know what I'm doing now, but you'll know shortly. But I know we're gonna do some chicken and I'm gonna do some sweet potatoes, and I decided to just do both of them in the crock pot. It's already after 3:30 in the afternoon. We do eat dinner a little bit late, but I'm gonna have to put them both on high.
and I'm gonna figure the details out later, but we are just have a busy week, and I don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen later, so this is what we're gonna do. All right, so for the potatoes, I'm just cutting, one's got a little yucky spot. I'm gonna cut out. But you can literally just rinse off the potatoes, rinse off the potatoes with water and plop them in there. That's it. The moisture from washing them off is enough. I'm gonna pop that on high. So for these chicken pieces, I'm just gonna put on a little bit of onion powder and garlic powder. And then I have a little bit of barbecue sauce that was in the fridge that I'd made a while back. And I'm just gonna pour that on. I'll probably have to make some more later depending on what I decide to do with this. Pop this on, put it on high as well. We'll come back later and decide what dinner's actually gonna look like. All right, so what I did was take out the chicken, and I've just taken everything off the bones and shredded it. We're gonna toss this back in here, and this was only after like 3 hours. Remember, this is just feeding my husband and I. I will say this doesn't look like a lot of meat, but it will definitely be enough for the two of us. I've just switched this to keep warm. My husband is out on a run right now, but I think I'm going to add a little bit more sauce in here.
I'm of course not measuring, I'm just doing a combination of ketchup, mustard, Worcestershire sauce, and brown sugar. Just do it to taste. If you're not sure, mix it up separately so you can taste it before you mix it in with the chicken.
Also, I just checked the sweet potatoes and they're done too, so I'm just gonna put it off. This Crockpot does not have a warm setting, it's just low and high or off, but I'm gonna turn it off and just keep this on. Keep this warm until my husband gets back from his run, and then I'm gonna make up a veggie and maybe some rice to go with it. Here's what I decided to go along with it. We've got some brown rice there and some green beans we're gonna steam up, and we're gonna call it good. There's dinner. And here's what's for dinner. Originally I thought I was gonna put the chicken on the sweet potato, but I decided to do sweet potato with a little bit of butter and brown sugar, barbecue chicken on top of the rice, and some green beans.
So on this night for dinner, we are going to have nachos. Originally, I was gonna try to do crunch wraps, but we're gonna save those for another week. I just didn't really want to put forth the effort. Like I said, we've been pretty busy. So I just browned up some meat and drained the grease. I think I put a little bit of water in. Sometimes I leave some of the grease, sometimes I drain it all and put in water. Doesn't really matter. And I'm adding in some taco seasoning along with some chili lime seasoning from Trader Joe's. We love to add that. And then I let Jesse pretty much handle the nachos. So we like to do the chips and meat and anything else that we want to be warm on this part. Then we'll put it in the oven and add the cold stuff at the end. So we've got the chips, the ground beef. We're gonna add in some corn and then some black beans. I don't love them on my nachos, so I just always tell him to go a little bit light on my side. And then we're gonna add on some cheese. And then we'll pop this in the oven at 400, I think for maybe 15 minutes. I don't really know. I kind of let him pay attention to that. Really just until the cheese is melty. And then we had a little bit of queso left in the fridge, so we thought that would be good to add on. We're trying to kind of clean out the fridge. This queso recipe will be in a video eventually. I haven't decided. Well, I think I know what I want to do with it. Anyways, this was really good. It'll come eventually. So we heated that up because we'd already put the pan in the oven. So we heated up the queso, added that on top, and then some chopped up or shredded lettuce, as well as cucumbers. Sometimes we do cucumbers, sometimes we don't. I know that's kind of odd for nachos, but we're odd, so whatever. And then some diced up tomatoes, some sour cream, and then I like to sprinkle a little bit of chili lime seasoning on top. And then I realized while I was doing that, Jesse said he didn't want any more on his side, so I was stopping and trying to figure out what I was doing. Anyways, and then just some taco seasoning on Jesse's side because he likes it like that. And then we just eat right out of the pan, so it saves on dishes and it's great for a quick and easy dinner without a lot of mess. All right, so now I'm gonna share with you a coconut flour banana bread recipe. I didn't have as many dinners just because of life and leftovers, so I thought it'd be fun to include this in here. So I've got 3 medium bananas that were mashed. I had some bananas that desperately needed to be used, and I didn't want to add any more to my freezer because I've got a bunch of them in there. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and a 1/4 cup of peanut butter. You can also use almond butter, and you're gonna mix that, and then you're gonna add in 2 eggs, 1 at a time. It's helpful if the eggs can be room temperature, but to be honest, I did not do that. Mix in between each egg. Then we're gonna go ahead and add in the dry ingredients. So I'm adding in 1/2 cup of coconut flour. I was at the end of a container, so I just ended up using that and then pulling a couple teaspoons from another bag just to kind of even it out to make it close to 1/2 a cup. And then 1/2 teaspoon each of baking soda and baking powder, as well as cinnamon, and then 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And you're gonna mix that just until it's combined. You don't wanna over mix it. This recipe does not actually call for sugar. You just have the sweetness from the bananas and from the chocolate chips. And it's good, but this time I decided to just add in a little bit of honey. You don't need to do that. It is good without it, but I was just feeling like switching it up a little bit. And then we're gonna fold in the chocolate chips, about 1/2 cup. Again, I don't measure chocolate chips because there's no such thing as too many. And then you're gonna line your dish. I don't know if you have to do this, but the recipe that I had found at some point down the road, I don't know where from, it did say to line it with parchment paper and spray it, so that's what I did. I sprayed it with coconut cooking spray and just gonna lay that in. And then I like to add in some cinnamon on top. Sometimes I crumble some like brown sugar on top or some more chocolate chips, but I just did the cinnamon this time. And you're gonna bake that at 350 until it's done.
All right, so I ended up doing my bread for about 35 minutes. Can't wait for this to cool down and eat it.
I just thought I would add that this type of bread does not rise the same as when you use white flour, but it does come out really good. That's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe before you leave. See you next time.